In 1960, two men climbed into a steel sphere and descended into the deepest part of the ocean, 7 miles down. Deeper than Everest is tall. At that depth, the pressure is over 1,000 times what we experience at sea level. Enough to crush a car into a cube the size of a shoebox. The walls of their submarine groaned, metal bent. They heard cracks, but they kept going. And when they reached the bottom, when they turned on their lights, they saw something they weren't supposed to see. A fish, swimming, calm, alive, in a place where nothing should be able to exist. That was the moment we realized the deep ocean isn't empty. It's full, but what's down there shouldn't be. Because the deeper you go, the more the rules of biology break. The creatures get stranger, more alien, more wrong. This is what happens when life goes too deep. The ocean covers 71% of Earth's surface, but we've only explored about 5% of it. We have better maps of Mars than we do of our own ocean floor. Why? Because the deep ocean is hostile in ways space isn't. In space, there's no pressure. In the deep ocean, pressure increases with every meter you descend. In space, there's no corrosion. In the ocean, salt eats through everything. In space, we can see forever. In the ocean, light disappears after 200 meters. Below that, it's absolute darkness, for miles. And in that darkness, things evolved. Things that have never seen the sun. Things that will never see the surface. They adapted to a world we can barely survive in, even with technology, and the adaptations they made turned them into something else. Let me show you what happens when you go too deep. The ocean isn't one environment, it's layers. And each layer has its own rules. Let's start at the top and go down. Down to where the monsters live. This is the twilight zone. The last place sunlight reaches. It's dim, blue, eerie. This is where things start to get strange. Down here, eyes begin to change. Some fish develop massive eyes taking up half their head to capture every photon of remaining light. Others go the opposite direction. No eyes at all. Why waste energy on something you don't need? And then there's the viperfish. Teeth so long they can't close their mouth. Teeth that curve back toward their own eyes. Teeth designed to impale, not bite. The viperfish hunts by opening its jaws impossibly wide, dislocating them, and swimming straight into prey. The teeth act like a cage. But here's what's disturbing. The viperfish isn't an ambush predator. It doesn't wait. It swims through the twilight zone with its mouth permanently open, hoping to run into something. This isn't strategy. This is desperation. Because down here, food is scarce. You don't get to be picky. And this is just the beginning. Because below the twilight zone, the sun disappears completely. Welcome to the midnight zone. No sunlight has reached here in millions of years. The temperature drops to just above freezing. The pressure is crushing, and yet life exists. But it had to change. In total darkness, vision becomes useless. So many creatures here produce their own light. Bioluminescence. The anglerfish is the most famous example. That glowing lure dangling in front of its face? That's a fishing rod, literally. The anglerfish sits motionless in the dark, waving its lure. Small fish see the light, think it's prey or safety, and swim closer. And then the anglerfish strikes. Its mouth opens faster than the human eye can follow. Water rushes in, pulling the prey with it, teeth locked down. But here's the nightmare detail. The anglerfish's jaw can unhinge so wide that it can swallow prey larger than itself. Its stomach expands. Its skin stretches. It might go months without eating. So when it finds food, it doesn't waste any. But the anglerfish isn't even the strangest part of this zone. That honor belongs to the barrelli fish. This fish has a transparent skull. You can see its brain. You can see its eyes inside its head, pointing upward. Why? Because the barrelli hunts by looking up. It watches for the silhouettes of prey above it, backlit by the faint glow from the twilight zone. When it sees something, it rotates its eyes forward inside the fluid-filled dome of its skull and swims up to attack. Its entire head is a sensory bubble, a window to see through. This fish evolved a see-through skull because that was the best solution to the problem of hunting in near darkness. And that tells you something important. Evolution down here isn't refining, it's improvising. Because the deeper you go, the fewer the rules. 4,000 meters down. The pressure here is 400 times surface pressure, enough to crush a submarine. The temperature is 2 degrees Celsius, just above freezing. There is no light, no plants, no photosynthesis. Everything down here survives on what falls from above. Dead fish, dead whales. Marine snow, a constant drift of organic debris. This is a graveyard ecosystem. Life feeding on death. And the creatures here look like they've been dead for a while. The blobfish, you've seen the photos. That sad, melting face. But those photos are misleading. The blobfish doesn't look like that in its natural habitat. At depth, under crushing pressure, it looks almost normal. Its gelatinous body is less dense than water, allowing it to float just above the seafloor without expending energy. But when you bring it to the surface, the pressure drops. Its body expands, collapses. That's when you get the blob. The blobfish isn't ugly, it's adapted. We just can't see it in its element. But there are other creatures down here that are disturbing no matter where you see them. The gulper eel. The gulper eel is mostly mouth. Its jaw unhinges to a grotesque degree. It can open wide enough to swallow prey several times its own size. Its body is thin, almost vestigial. Like the jaw evolved first and dragged the rest of the fish along as an afterthought. It swims through the abyss with its mouth open, hoping to engulf whatever it touches. There's no hunting strategy, no stalking, just mouths in the dark waiting. And then there's the deep-sea dragonfish. Invisible teeth, transparent, they reflect no light. The dragonfish produces red bioluminescence, a color most deep-sea creatures can't see. It's like having night vision goggles in a world of blind animals. It can see prey. Prey can't see it. And when it attacks, its invisible teeth leave no warning. This is predation evolved to perfection. Or to nightmare, depending on your perspective. But even this isn't the deepest, because below the abyss, there's one more zone, the Hadal Zone. The Hadal Zone is named after Hades, the underworld. This is the deepest part of the ocean. The trenches, the Mariana Trench, the Tonga Trench, the Philippine Trench, places where the ocean floor splits and plunges even deeper. Down here, the pressure exceeds 1,000 atmospheres. A human would be crushed instantly. Even advanced submarines can barely survive. And yet, life exists. Snailfish, amphipods, worms, but they don't look like their shallow water relatives anymore. The Mariana snailfish is almost translucent. No scales, no swim bladder, bones soft and cartilaginous. It's more gel than fish, because solid structures can't survive down here. Anything rigid breaks under pressure. So evolution dissolved structure, made everything soft, flexible. The snailfish isn't a fish anymore, not really. It's a pressurized sack of fluid and organs, somehow still alive. And then there are the amphipods, tiny crustaceans. But in the Hadal Zone, they grow to monstrous sizes. Some reach 30 centimeters long. Why? We don't know. But when researchers dropped bait into the Mariana Trench, thousands of these giant amphipods swarmed it within hours. They tore through the bait like piranhas, stripped it to bone. In the deepest, darkest, most hostile place on Earth, there's a thriving scavenger population, waiting, hungry, always hungry, because in the Hadal Zone, food doesn't come often. When it does, you eat everything, or you die. So how did life adapt to this? Let's talk about pressure first. At the surface, atmospheric pressure is 1 bar. At 1,000 meters, it's 100 bars. At 10,000 meters, it's 1,000 bars. That's like having 1,000 elephants standing on every square inch of your body. For humans, this would be fatal. Our lungs would collapse. Our cells would rupture. But deep-sea creatures evolved tricks. First, they eliminated air spaces, no lungs, no swim bladders, no gas-filled cavities, because gases compress. And when they compress, they cause structural failure. Second, they increased the concentration of certain molecules in their cells, proteins and enzymes that remain stable under pressure. There's a compound called trimethylamine oxide TMAO. It's an organic osmolyte. Deep-sea fish have massive concentrations of TMAO in their tissues. It counteracts the effect of pressure on proteins. Without TMAO, their enzymes would denature, stop working. But here's the trade-off. TMAO smells horrible. It's why deep-sea fish reek when brought to the surface. They literally smell like death, because the chemistry that keeps them alive at depth becomes toxic at the surface. They can't survive here, and we can't survive there. Two worlds, separated by pressure. Now the darkness. Sunlight penetrates ocean water to about 200 meters. Below that, photosynthesis is impossible. No photosynthesis means no plants. No plants means no base of the food chain. So how does anything eat? Marine snow, organic particles, dead plankton, feces, molted shells drift down from the surface, constantly, slowly. It takes weeks for particles to reach the abyssal zone. Most of it gets eaten on the way down. What reaches the bottom is scraps, fragments. Deep-sea creatures survive on garbage. But garbage isn't enough to sustain large populations. So predation becomes essential. And in darkness, predation requires innovation. Bioluminescence evolved independently at least 50 times in the ocean. That's how useful it is. Some use it to lure prey. Some use it to confuse predators. Some use it to communicate. But some use it as camouflage, counter-illumination. Creatures on the underside of their bodies produce light that matches the faint glow from above. From below, they become invisible. No silhouette, just even lighting. It's biological stealth technology. And it works because evolution in the deep isn't just about survival. It's about invisibility. The third factor, cold. Deep ocean temperatures hover around 2 to 4 degrees Celsius. Cold water slows metabolism. Chemical reactions happen slower. Muscles move slower. For mammals, this would be fatal. We generate our own heat. We need energy. But deep-sea fish are cold-blooded. They don't fight the temperature, they match it. Their metabolism slows to a crawl. They move in slow motion. They don't waste energy. A deep-sea fish might go months between meals. It can afford to wait, but this creates a problem. Slow metabolism means slow growth, slow reproduction, slow healing. If a deep-sea fish gets injured, it might take years to recover. Evolution in the deep happens slowly, because life happens slowly. But the advantage is endurance. These creatures can outlast anything, because they're already living on the edge of nothing. Here's the terrifying part. We've explored about 5% of the ocean floor. 5%. That means 95% is still unknown. We've sent more people to space than to the deepest parts of the ocean. Only 3 people have ever been to the bottom of the Mariana Trench. 3. And every time we send a submersible down, we discover something new. In 2020, researchers exploring the Hadal Zone found plastic bags and candy wrappers at the bottom of the Mariana Trench. Humans reached the deepest part of the ocean before we even mapped it, but they also found new species. Dozens of them. Species that don't match any known classification. Creatures that evolved in isolation for millions of years. And that raises the question, what else is down there? In 1997, Underwater microphones detected a sound, ultra-low frequency, extremely loud. Louder than any known biological source. They called it the bloop. For years, people speculated. Could it be a creature? A massive, undiscovered deep-sea animal? Eventually, scientists concluded it was probably an iceberg breaking apart. Probably. But the ocean is full of unexplained sounds. The bloop wasn't the only one. There's the whistle, the upsweep, Julia. Sounds we can't identify, coming from places we've never visited. And some of those sounds are organic. We just don't know what made them. Because the deep ocean is bigger than we comprehend. Trenches extend for thousands of kilometers. Abyssal plains span areas larger than continents. There's room down there. Room for things we haven't found yet. When a whale dies, it sinks. And when it reaches the ocean floor, something extraordinary happens. An entire ecosystem forms around the carcass. Within hours, hagfish arrive. Sleeper sharks, giant isopods, they strip the flesh. Within weeks, worms burrow into the bones. Bacteria colonize the marrow. For decades, that single whale carcass supports life. Hundreds of species, some found nowhere else. These are called whale fall ecosystems. And they're everywhere. The ocean floor is dotted with them. Oases of life in a desert of nothing. But here's the disturbing part. We've found whale fall species that can't survive anywhere else. They're specialists. They evolved specifically to live on dead whales. Which means, at some point in the past, whale falls were common enough, predictable enough, that evolution favored specialization. The deep ocean runs on death. Entire ecosystems exist because things die and fall. It's not just a graveyard. It's a factory, recycling life into life. But efficiently, ruthlessly. And then there are the vents. Hydrothermal vents. Cracks in the ocean floor where superheated water over 400 degrees Celsius pours out. This water is toxic, loaded with sulfur, methane, heavy metals. It should be sterile. Instead, it's teeming with life. Giant tube worms. 2 meters long, no mouth, no digestive system. They survive through symbiosis with bacteria that live inside them. Bacteria that convert toxic chemicals into energy. Chemosynthesis. Life without sunlight. Life without photosynthesis. This was considered impossible until we discovered it in 1977, and it rewrote biology. Because if life can exist here thriving on chemicals, in boiling toxic water, in absolute darkness, where else can it exist? Enceladus, Saturn's moon, has subsurface oceans. Europa, Jupiter's moon, probably does too. If life exists there, it might look like hydrothermal vent communities. Which means the deep ocean isn't just teaching us about Earth. It's teaching us what life might look like on other worlds. So what happens when life goes too deep? It transforms. Eyes become useless, so they disappear or become enormous. Structure becomes a liability, so bodies turn to gel. Food becomes scarce, so jaws unhinge and stomachs expand. Light becomes absent, so creatures make their own. Every rule we think defines life: sunlight, oxygen, warmth, pressure limits, gets rewritten. The deep ocean is proof that life doesn't need our conditions. It just needs a way, and it will find one. No matter how extreme the environment. But here's what keeps me awake at night. Too deep isn't just about distance. It's about understanding. We've been to the moon. We've sent probes to the edge of the solar system. But we still don't know what's at the bottom of our own ocean. We've mapped 5%. We've sampled a fraction of that. Which means the creatures we've documented, the anglerfish, the blobfish, the snailfish, those aren't the extremes. Those are just the ones we happen to find. What we haven't found yet could be anything. In 2023, researchers captured footage of something in the Hadal Zone. Large, moving slowly. Never fully in frame. They tried to track it. The ROV couldn't keep up. They tried to identify it. It didn't match any known species. When they reviewed the footage, all they could say was, "We don't know what that was." And that's the truth about the deep ocean. We don't know. We've sent robots, we've sent cameras, we've sent sonar. And every time we find something new, something stranger, something that shouldn't exist, but does. Because life doesn't care about shouldn't. Life only cares about can. And in the deep ocean, the answer is always yes. The ocean is 7 miles deep. We've been to the bottom once, for 20 minutes. The rest of it? Still waiting, still dark, still full. If you want to explore more impossible life, subscribe. Because the deep ocean has more secrets than we ever imagined. And some of them are still down there.